We are going to pick up in chapter 13. Just a couple of things to point out. Fairly early on in the chapter, about, 4 or 5 pages in, pages 218 and 19. Harry, Ron, Hermione run into Neville, or Neville runs into them, whichever way you want to put it, and mentions that Malfoy's been picking on him again, and Hermione says, go to McGonagall, as Hermione always does, go talk to a teacher, essentially. They keep talking, and Neville gives Harry, because Harry praises Neville gives Harry a chocolate frog card. Bottom of 218, Harry says, you're worth 12 of Malfoy. Sorting Hat chose you for Gryffindor, didn't it? And where's Malfoy? In stinking Slytherin. Okay? Neville unwraps the frog, eats the frog, gives Harry the card, and Harry starts to talk about Dumbledore, and he looks at the card, and it hits him. That's where he remembered Nicholas Flamel. Okay? Hermione immediately opens up a book, because she always has books with her, and we're told 220, talking about the Sorcerer's Stone. A legendary substance with astonishing powers, the stone will transform any metal into pure gold. It also produces the elixir of life. Okay? There have been many reports of the Sorcerer's Stone over the centuries, but the only stone currently in existence belongs to Mr. Nicholas Flamel, the noted alchemist and opera lover. Mr. Flamel, who celebrated his 665th birthday last year, enjoys a quiet life in Devon with his wife, Perenelle, who is 658. Okay, a couple of things. One, Nicholas Flamel is a real person. 16th century French alchemist. And he was really married to a woman named Perenelle. That's where the reality ends, however. Notice, and I don't know why she does this. I don't think she's ever said why, okay? Last year, he was 665. This year, assuming he lives that long, which it's clear he will, he'll turn what age? 666. This is one of those things that, made the fundamentalist Christians absolutely bonkers. Mark of the Beast, Revelation, the whole 9 yards, okay? So, they start talking about that, and Harry says, a stone that makes gold and keeps you from ever dying. No wonder Snape's after it, all right? Because they think Snape is the one who wants the stone. Go on, we're going to skip a bunch to Norbert the Norwegian Ridgeback. The only reason this chapter is important, it's not because of Norbert, it's not because it introduces dragons, it's the very end, when Harry and Ron get caught. Why? What's their punishment for being in the Forbidden Forest? We're going to see a parallel in Book 7, by the way. They get assigned detention with Hagrid, but it's not detention where you're sitting in class, like I used to have to do, because I mouth off or say something, right? I will not talk out of turn, I will not whatever. Harry's going to later on have to write, I will not tell lies. Well, this detention is with Hagrid in the Forbidden Forest. Who else goes in? So it's Harry, Ron, Malfoy, and Neville. Why is Neville there? He tried to stop Harry and Ron. Okay? So, why is the Forbidden Forest forbidden? Are we ever told? It's implied. Lots of monsters, dangerous creatures and such. Okay? So, we're told at the beginning of the chapter, McGonagall says, explain yourselves. So, Gryffindor loses a bunch of house points. The point system as to who will win the House Cup at the end of the year. and then they get assigned to Hagrid to go into the Forbidden Forest. Pages 250 and following. So, Hagrid says, listen carefully. I don't want anybody getting hurt, lost, etc. So he divides them up. And Hagrid says, there's nothing in the forest that'll hurt you if you're with me or Fang. What's Fang? A boarhound, okay? Big dog. Really big dog. Who it turns out is also pretty much a coward. So, there's blood all over the place, and Hagrid says, I want to split us up into two parties to find out where it leads to, meaning where the animal is that died, or that is dying. Malfoy, I want to be with Fang. Hagrid says, cool. So he divides them up. Me, Harry, not Ron. Me, Harry, and Hermione will go one way. Draco, Neville, and Fang will go the other way. What do you immediately know, without ever having had to read any of the rest? What kind of problem is that going to create? Okay, what were we just told in the preceding chapter? Or the one preceding that? Malfoy's been doing what to Neville? He's been picking on him. Hagrid apparently doesn't know that, okay? So, there's a unicorn either dead or wounded. They're going off to try to find it. They keep talking. Harry says, are there werewolves in here? Hagrid, nope, wasn't a werewolf that did it. Wasn't no unicorn either, etc. So, they keep going in. Harry, Hermione, and Hagrid now. Page 252. Hagrid hears a noise, calls out, who's there? And we meet our first centaur. There's Ronan. Okay? Ronan, by the way, is a Celtic god. So they keep talking, and Hagrid tells Ronan, can't be too careful in here, because he's like, why are you armed with a crossbow, etc. He says, this is Harry Potter, and this is Hermione Granger, etc. Students up at the school. He's a centaur, and Harry and Hermione we kind of figure that one out. Ronan says, so, do you learn much up at the school? That's Harry. Hermione, a bit. He said, well, that's something. Mars is bright tonight. Hagrid, So he starts talking about the wounded unicorn. Ronan, page 253. Always the innocent are the first victims. So it has been for ages past, so it is now. What's he talking about? Mars is bright tonight. What's Mars?
It's the Roman god of war.
Roman god of war. So when he says always the innocent are victims first, he's saying when war breaks out, it's not the guilty, it's not the warmongers, so to speak, that are injured. It's the poor slobs on the front lines. Okay? So, Hagrid, you seen anything? Anything unusual? Mars is bright tonight, unusually bright. Hagrid, anything closer to home? You're talking about out in the space, Forest hides many secrets. So far, what kind of information does Ronan pass on? Esoteric, arcane, nothing to do with their problems, okay? Here comes another centaur. This one's name is Bane, like in Durin's Bane. What's Bane mean? Slayer, killer, okay? Hagrid asks Bane, you seen anything strange or odd? Mars is bright tonight, like freaking centaurs, So, they go off. That's why Hagrid says, don't try to get a straight answer from a centaur, okay? Lots of centaurs out there, etc. They see sparks. They go and find Neville and Malfoy. And 255, we find out that Malfoy again played a practical joke on Neville. That's why he sent up the sparks. Notice they're red sparks. What should that tell us? Gryffindor sparks. They're not green sparks. Okay. And so Harry now goes off with Malfoy. Hermione and Neville stay with Hagrid. So, 2:55, just past the middle of the page. Harry goes off into the heart of the forest with Malfoy and Fang. They walk for nearly half an hour. Harry thought the blood seemed to be getting thicker. They're following a trail of some sort. And then we're told there were splashes on the roots of a tree as though the poor creature had been thrashing around in pain close by. Harry could see a clearing ahead through the tangled branches of an ancient oak. Look at the next line. Look, he murmured. Doing what? Putting his arm out to stop Malfoy. Why has Harry put his arm out? Don't say to stop Malfoy.
To like, I guess protect him.
It's innate in Harry. It's not something that he thinks about necessarily. He is a natural-born protector, okay? Something bright white was gleaming on the ground. They go closer, and there it is. There's a unicorn, okay? Harry takes a step towards it, when a slithering sound made him freeze, and then his scar feels like his head is going to burst. Okay? Malfoy runs. Centaur comes up, pulling Harry to his feet. What was that? Harry asks. You are the Potter boy, says the Centaur. How does he know? This Centaur wasn't there when Ronan and Bane met Harry. He knows because of the scar. Okay? You'd better get back to Hagrid. Forest is not safe at this time, especially for you. Okay? The Centaur gives Harry a ride on his back. We find out his name is Firenze, which is Italian for fire or on fire. Okay? Bane comes in, blows a gasket, says, what are you doing? You have a human on your back. Have you no shame? Are you a common mule? What does this tell us about centaurs? Classical mythology tells us the same thing, by the way. They are very proud creatures. Okay? So, Firenze. You know who this is? This is the Potter boy. Quicker he leaves, the better off. What have you been telling him? Remember, Firenze, we are sworn not to set ourselves against the heavens. Have we not read what is to come in the movements of the planets? What's that talking about? The movements of the planets is part of what? Astrology, where you can read the heavens to tell you what is going to happen down here. All right? For the best? What is that to do with us? Bane responds. Centaurs are concerned with what has been foretold. Prophecy. All right? It is not our business to run around like donkeys after stray humans in our forest. Notice, our forest, not anybody else's, ours. But what else? We've seen what's been prophesied, and he's saying what about that prophecy? Now, when a prophecy is given, what's the usual reason why the prophecy is given? To let people know. Usually it's to let people know so that they can do one of two things. Prepare or change. Try to stop the prophecy from happening. Not like Oedipus does in Oedipus the King. Okay? He's like, we just tell the prophecy. We don't alter it in any way. Firenze, you see that unicorn? Do you not understand why it was killed? Now, Harry doesn't understand, because he and Firenze are going to talk about that in just a minute. Or have the planets not let you in on that secret? I set myself against what is lurking in the forest, Bane. Yes, with humans alongside me, if I must. What is he saying in popular language? This phrase became popular in the first Gulf War in 1991, and then it was said again in 2003 and following. So it's a Middle Eastern notion. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Okay? Ferenz is saying Harry Potter is the enemy of that thing that's out there. And that, therefore, he's my friend and I'm going to help him. Okay? So, he and Harry write on. Harry, next page. Why is Bane so angry? What was that thing you saved me from? And so what does Ferenz start to do? He acts like a teacher. He starts going all Socratic on Harry. Do you know what unicorn blood is used for? He says, no, we've only discussed the horn and the tail in potions. That's because it's a monstrous thing to slay a unicorn. Only one who has nothing to lose, this is page 258, and everything to gain would commit such a crime. The blood of a unicorn will keep you alive, even if you are an inch from death, but at a terrible price. In other words, it's like a stand-in for the elixir of life. Okay? But there's a price you have to pay. What's the price? You have slain something pure and defenseless to save yourself, and you will have but a half-life, a cursed life, from the moment the blood touches your lips. So how can you have a half-life? The second phrase makes it clear. You'll be cursed. Okay? It won't be everything's fine, you're healed, etc. Okay? Harry, but who'd be that desperate? I mean, if you're going to be cursed forever, death's better, isn't it? What has Harry just said? There are some things, what? Worse than
Death.
Yeah. A cursed life is worse than death. Death would be better than that. Harry doesn't really understand what the cursed life thing means. Ferenz, it is. That is, death is better than a cursed life and living forever with that curse, unless all you need is to stay alive long enough to drink something else, something that will bring you back to full strength and power. That is, give you immortality. Something that will mean you can never die. What does Voldemort's name mean? To fly or flee from death. Mr. Potter, do you know what is hidden in the school at this very moment? Does Harry know? Yes, because they have heard about the theft at Gringotts and they have put together the clues. That's why it's a detective novel. It's a whodunit, not a mystery. Okay? And they realize the philosopher, I'm going to use the real name, the Philosopher's Stone is at Hogwarts. But I don't understand who, that is. Who would want this? Another Socratic question. By asking these questions, Ferenz is asserting Harry knows the answers. Can you think of nobody who has waited for many years to return to power, who has clung to life, awaiting their chance? It was as though an iron fist had clenched suddenly around Harry's heart. Why? Why wasn't it as though Harry had been slapped across the face? Why this metaphor? Think about that for a while. Do you mean Volt? And Hagrid and the others burst in. Okay. So Ferenz says, time for me to leave. You're safe now. Good luck, Harry Potter. The planets have been read wrongly before now. Notice, he's not saying the planets have been wrong. Because a real astrologer would say, the planets are always right. We might misinterpret them, but they're always right. Okay? So, Harry goes back to the common room. He finds Ron. He wakes him up, page 261, and he says, Snape wants the stone for Voldemort. Voldemort's waiting in the forest. All this time we thought Snape just wanted to get rich. Ron, say no name. Firenze saved me, but he shouldn't have. Bane was furious, etc. Bane thinks Firenze should have let Voldemort kill me. I suppose that's written in the stars as well. So all I've got to do is wait now, all I've got to wait for now, that's a horrible sentence, the way she wrote it. All I've got to wait for now is Snape to steal the stone. Then Voldemort will be able to come and finish me off. Okay? Hermione, Dumbledore, everyone says Dumbledore's the only one you know who was ever afraid of. With Dumbledore around, you know who won't touch you. Dumbledore's been there all term. Okay? Anyways, who says the centaurs are right? It sounds like fortune telling to me. That is a key link from this book to the next book. Okay? Who says the centaurs are right? It sounds like fortune telling to me. And Professor McGonagall says that's a very imprecise brand of magic. Harry goes back to his room, his dorm room with Ron, and there he finds the invisibility cloak folded beneath the sheets. Okay? What happened to the invisibility cloak before that? He left it at the top of the astronomy tower. Okay? 16. Through the trapdoor. We're going to skip a bunch. Harry overhears, or has overheard already, Snape talking with somebody in the Forbidden Forest. Okay? They already know about Fluffy, right? Fluffy's a three-headed dog. What's the source for Fluffy? Real Cerberus, Greek mythology. Three-headed dog that guards what? Gates of Hades. Okay? By the way, Argus Filch, the kind of caretaker of the school, what do his names mean? So you have Fluffy equals Cerberus. Argus was a creature with 1,000 eyes. Okay? What does Filch seemingly know? Where everybody is what they're doing. You know, he's got the stupid cat, Mrs. Norris. Filch, it's a verb. To filch something means what? To steal, to take it. Okay? What does he do with things that students shouldn't have? He filches them, he takes them away. Okay? So, Harry figures all this stuff out and he says, I got to go talk to Dumbledore. So he tries to go talk to Dumbledore, 266, 67. And they run into McGonagall. Okay? McGonagall says, Dumbledore's a busy man, blah, 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 and he's also not here. He's been called away to London because the Ministry of Magic needs his, wisdom to solve a problem. Okay? She says he'll be back tomorrow, 268. They run into Snape. It's a nice day. You should be outside. Because they're trying to figure out how to get to where? The third floor where Fluffy is. Okay? Because Hermione pointed out, what did they see when they met Fluffy before? Fluffy's sitting on a trapdoor. Okay? So, let's keep going on. Page 270. Harry tells Ron and Hermione, I'm going out of here tonight, and I'm going to try to get to the stone first. Ron, you're mad. Hermione, you can't. Why? You'll be expelled. What's the most important thing for Hermione? Staying at Hogwarts. Okay? Harry, so what? Don't you want, now Harry's going to say something here that I think, based upon everything we've been told up to this point in the novel, doesn't make any sense. I think it's an example of Rowling's bad writing, and I'll point it out in a second. Don't you understand? If Snape gets hold of the stone, Voldemort's coming back. Haven't you heard what it was like when he was trying to take over? There won't be any Hogwarts to get expelled from. Okay? So first question. When Harry says, haven't you heard what it was like when he was trying to take over? What does that presume on Harry's part?
He has knowledge about what it was like when Voldemort.
Where would he get that knowledge? The Dursleys? No. Hagrid? Maybe. Ron? Probably not. Probably from a book. From what we know, given everything that's been said about Harry so far, does Harry randomly pick up history books and read them? No. Who does? Hermione. I mean, she's pretty much memorized a history of magic. Okay? So this is, I think, the first little element that doesn't really fit with his character. So, there won't be any Hogwarts to get expelled from. He'll flatten it or turn it into a school for the dark arts. Losing points doesn't matter anymore, don't you see? Now, what does that mean, losing points? In the house competition for the house cup. Okay? Do you think he'll leave you and your families alone if Gryffindor wins the house cup? If I get caught before I can get to the stone, well, I'll have to go back to the Dursleys and wait for Voldemort to find me there. It's only dying a bit later than I would have. So that more or less makes sense, simply because, well, let me ask this. Have we been told anywhere that Voldemort is actively seeking Harry? Has Hagrid told him that? Has Snape? Anybody else? No. Hagrid says, he thinks Voldemort's gone, but he's just waiting for the right time to come back. Anything else? No. Even earlier, Harry said, Voldemort's coming back, etc., etc. He's going to try to get me. So why does Harry think Voldemort's out to get him?
Because he tried to kill him before.
Okay, so let's look at that for a moment. Who else did he kill then? So why would it make sense to try to kill the baby?
Well, that's kind of the mystery of the whole thing, isn't it?
Partly.
Why did Voldemort specifically want to kill Harry?
Do we know that he specifically wanted to kill Harry?
No, I think they mentioned, though, that he killed his dad, and that his mom might have even...
That comes later.
Okay.
We're told the order and everything later. All we know is that on October 31st, 10 years ago, Voldemort attempted to wipe out the Potter family. We're not told yet, we haven't been told yet exactly why. So the way Hagrid describes it in that chapter, Keeper of the Keys, is he says, wanted to make a clean sweep of it. He didn't want to leave any witnesses, so to speak. Now, what good would a 1 year, 3-month-old baby, 1 year, 3-month-old baby be? Probably not good, but it's a magical world and maybe there's a way to extract memories. Later books. So, Harry then says, if I get caught before I can get to the stone, I'll have to go back to the Dursleys and wait for Voldemort to find me there. It's only dying a bit later than I would have, and this is the part that doesn't make any sense. Because I'm never going over to the dark side. It's like she channels Luke Skywalker from Star Wars. Join with me, Luke. Whoever suggested Anybody wanted Harry to, quote unquote, go over to the dark side. Now, there's one possible answer, and it's pretty vague. When?
Whenever he asked him to like be his friend.
On the train. I can help you, he says, with the right sort. You don't want to go the way of your parents, he suggests. Is he suggesting when you read that passage in connection with this passage, is Malfoy suggesting that Harry's parents were offered to go to or invited to go to the dark side? Nobody makes that assertion. Okay? Nowhere do the books make that assertion. So, to me, that's the only thing you could attach to this. It just doesn't make any sense. So, I'm going through that trapdoor tonight. Nothing you two say is going to stop me. Voldemort killed my parents. Remember? Now, what does that make it sound like? He's stopping Voldemort to get the stone for what reason? Revenge. I'm going to get that SOB, you know. Hermione, you're right, Harry. Harry, I'll use the invisibility cloak. It's lucky I got it back. Not a word that Elrond or Gandalf would ever use, by the way. Ron, will it cover all three of us? What are you talking about? You're not going by yourself. Hermione says, how do you think you'd get to the stone without us? Wow. How's that for building up his confidence before he goes on to take the greatest dark wizard, you know? So she says, I should go look through some books because that might help, etc. So, after dinner, they go on. Who, again, attempts to stop them. Why? He doesn't want any more house points to be lost. Okay? So, we have 7 tests or challenges that they have to pass. What's the first one? And who created it? Fluffy. Hagrid is the one responsible. How do they get past it? Harry plays the flute. That Hagrid just happened to whittle for him for Christmas. Okay? Total plot device. 2. They go through the trapdoor and fall into Devil's Snare. And that is Sprout. Notice the name. She deals with plants, horticulture. Okay. 3. Is it the keys? I just drew a blank. Drew a total blank.
Yes,
I think it's the keys.
4, 5, 6, 7.
it's the troll.
Trolls earlier.
No, it's because it's the keys, then the chess.
The chest.
The chess. Chess set.
Oh, chest set. Yeah. Sorry. I thought you said chest. Chest and that's right. And then the troll's knocked out. Keys.
Flitwick.
Flitwick. No, not a T. Litwick. Chess.
McGonagall.
And what has Ron been teaching Harry how to play all year long? Chess. Troll.
Squirrel.
Potions.
Snake.
Mirror.
Dumbledore.
If you ever see it again, now you'll know how it works, Dumbledore said. Okay? So, without going into the details of all of those, notice in one of them, though, pages 282 and following, the chess set. actually, the chess set and the potions. What must be done to get through the chess set? How does Ron clear the path?
On sacrifices.
He has to sacrifice himself. Harry and Hermione are like, no, Ron, no. Because what are they thinking about the chess set? They don't know if when you get knocked out by that queen, you're going to come back, okay? So Ron, not knowing that he'll live, sacrifices himself, right? Troll's already taken care of. Potions. What do you have to do? You have to figure out which one is benign and which one isn't. Hermione figures it out because is it really potions? It's logic. Okay. Thinking of all these, Ron and Hermione don't come. How far does Harry make it? He gets through this. Because who solves this? Hermione. Okay. This one's easy for Harry. He'd be a goner here, probably. He'd get past that one, and if this one didn't kill him, or this one didn't kill him, this one would. Okay? Finally, he gets to through the trapdoor, not through the trapdoor, but just last page before chapter 17. Hermione runs to Harry, throws her arms around him, and he says, Hermione, because he's 11 years old, and Hermione's not cute like Emma Watson was when she was 11 or 10 or however old she was. Harry, you're a great wizard, I'm not as good as you, Harry says, as she let go of him. Notice she says, you're a great wizard. Okay? Ollivander said, we must expect great things from you. Hermione, me, books and cleverness. She is book smart, she says. There are more important things, Harry, like what? Friendship, bravery. Friendship and bravery are called virtues. Book learning is not a virtue. Being smart is not a virtue. It is a talent. She's not talking about talents. She's talking about something else. She's talking about why Harry, I had Gryffindor written up over here. She's talking about why Harry has been placed in Gryffindor. But Hermione and Ron have also shown why they've been placed in Gryffindor. They don't let Harry go by himself. Notice, friendship and bravery. Who else has that? Ron and Hermione. Okay? So, Harry, it's not poison? She says, no, but it's like ice. So, Harry drinks. Hermione drinks the one she drinks. Harry drinks his. He goes in. And who does he see? It was Quirrell. You? Me. Okay? I thought, Snape. Listen to this paragraph. Severus? Yes, Severus does seem the type, doesn't he? What does he mean by that? If you were to pick a villain based upon the first half of the book, who would it be? Obviously, it'd be Snape. He's always picking on Harry. He's always picking on Gryffindors. And he gives, let Slytherin slide and such. Just the whole 9 yards. So useful to have him swooping around like an overgrown bat. Okay? Why is he described like an overgrown bat? This is not the first time, this is not the last time this description will be applied to him.
Is it the way he dresses and his hair?
Partially. Why else? Okay.
Always around during the night.
He's out at night. We seemingly don't see him out during the day. Rowling implies, let me put it this way, from books 1 through 7, Rowling implies Snape's a vampire. Okay? That is, she gives little clues. I'm going to pop a bubble. he's not a vampire. Why? Those are all what are called red herrings. Those are all little bits of a track or a trail to throw you off the proper trail, okay? He is going to be described, we're going to see him at one point leave Hogwarts. And he's going to jump through a window and fly away like a giant bat. I'm not saying that he can literally transfigure into a bat, but that implication is there, okay? So, but Snape tried to kill me. No, I tried to kill you. When did Snape try to kill him, Harry thinks? The Quidditch match. Why? Because what's Snape doing? He's sitting there muttering under his tongue with his wand, you know. Snape was trying to save you. Why do you think you wanted to referee your next match? Harry's thinking, so that Slytherin would win, you know. So, we're going to skip a bunch. They talk about the trolls. And one of my students in my, was it this class or my second class? I think it was my second class. Pointed out, what day does Quirrell release the troll? Halloween. Is there a parallel between that happening on Halloween and when Harry's parents were murdered on Halloween, 11 years previously? Probably, okay? So, Harry says, I saw you and Snape in the forest. He was on to me. Snape was trying to shut me down, okay? So Quirrell stops talking to Harry, goes in front of the mirror, looks in it, and says, I see the stone, I'm presenting it to my master, but where is it? Notice, Quirrell doesn't know how the mirror works. The mirror does show him the deepest desire of his heart, which is what? To give the stone to Voldemort. Okay? Harry's still talking about Snape. Oh, yes, he does hate you. He was at Hogwarts with your father. Another little detail about Harry's father. Didn't you know? They loathed each other. But he never wanted you dead. But I thought Snape was threatening you. Sometimes I find it hard to follow my master's instructions. He is a great wizard and I am weak. Harry, wait, you mean he was in the classroom with you when Harry overheard this conversation? Key, very important passage. He is with me wherever I go. Okay? I met him when I traveled around the world. A foolish young man I was then, that is, when he traveled around the world, full of ridiculous ideas about good and evil. Lord Voldemort showed me how wrong I was. There is no good and evil, there is only power, and those too weak to seek it. German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, 19th century, died at age of 56, I think. Died in an insane asylum, mental institution, okay? He wrote a book called Beyond Good and Evil. That is above, past, good and evil. In some of his other writings, he proposed the idea of the Ubermensch, the overman. What figure do we get in popular culture based upon this? James Gunn has a new movie coming out based on it. The Superman. It's not the guy in tights with the big S. Okay? The Superman is the person who is not bound by the morality of the rest of us. Not bound by the morality of his culture. This is the person who, because of his innate greatness, can pretty much much do what he wants. Okay? It's this idea and this idea of transcending ideas of good and evil that led to spell it right, Hitler's idea of the Aryans, the super race. Because Hitler didn't think pure blood Germanic peoples should be governed by riffraff like us. Or like Jews, homosexuals, Catholics, gypsies, people with disabilities, etc. Okay? So look at what he says again. I was then, a foolish young man I was then, full of ridiculous ideas about good and evil. What is one of those ridiculous ideas about good and evil? He implies it in the next sentence. That there is good and evil. He's like, nothing is good or evil. There is what? There is only power. That's it. So if there's only power, then what is good? Keep going. Power in using it. Taking it. What is evil? Not using it. Not taking it. Renouncing it is evil and weak. Taking it and using it is good and strong. Okay? That is entirely Nietzschean. Nietzsche's main problem with Christianity is he said it's a religion for weaklings. It's Nietzsche, by the way, also, is the first one who says, most people don't know the rest of it. God is dead, and we killed him. Okay? And what he meant by that is, we moderns, late 19th century, no longer have a need for him. We can solve all of our problems on our own. If only we get beyond this. Because of my own religious philosophical background, I don't think it's an accident that he died insane. Okay? At least, my opinion, at least those people who have a religious tradition, and it doesn't matter what that religious tradition is, they're acknowledging something that people like Nietzsche did not, and that is, there's more than just what we can see. Hamlet puts it in the play Hamlet to Horatio, his best friend. There is more in heaven and earth than is dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio. Because Horatio is essentially a Stoic. What is here is what's important. Okay? So, and those we're going to see this idea fleshed out more in later books. In fact, we're going to see a discussion between a major character you will probably, if you read the books, kind of, get into them, come to love, and you're going to say, ooh, not so good at one point. Since then I have served him faithfully, although I've let him down many times. He has had to be very hard on me. That is, Voldemort has punished him. Okay? So, where's the stone? Is it in the mirror? Can't figure it out. Harry's mind is racing. What does he want more than anything? I want to find the stone before Quirrell does. So if I look in the mirror, I should see myself finding it, which means I'll see where it's hidden. But how can I look without Quirrell realizing what I'm up to? Quirrell's talking to himself. And then we hear, use the boy. Use the boy. Harry goes in front of the mirror. Look in the mirror, tell me what you see. I must lie, Harry thinks. I must look and lie about what I see. That's all. So Harry looks. He lies. He sees his reflection, pale and scared looking at first, but a moment later the reflection smiled at him. So he's scared, and then it smiles. It put its hand into its pocket and pulled out a blood-red stone. It winks, put the stone back in its pocket, and Harry suddenly feels the stone. Harry, I see myself shaking hands with Dumbledore. We've won the Gryffindor House Cup. He's 11 years old. Yeah, he would really want this to happen. Okay? So, we hear Voldemort's voice. He lies, etc., etc. He undoes his turban, and we see Voldemort's head plastered, whatever, on the back of Quirrell's head. Okay? So, Voldemort says, bottom of 293, 94. See what I have become, mere shadow and vapor. I have form only when I can share another's body. That is, what is he if he doesn't have another body to inhabit?
Harrison? No.
Nope, because that implies form. He's spirit. Soul, if you want. Okay? But there have always been those willing to let me into their hearts and minds. Unicorn blood has strengthened me, blah, 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 but it's not enough. Once I have the elixir of life, I'll be able to create a body of my own. Now, why don't you give me that stone in your pocket? How does Voldemort know Harry has the stone in his pocket?
Does Voldemort knows how the mirror works?
Could be. Okay? Don't be a fool. Better save your own life and join me. Or you'll meet the same end as your parents. That is, or I will kill you. They died begging me for mercy. Okay? No, I'm not going to say anything about that passage. We're going to see this later, in a later book. We'll see how Harry's parents die. So, how touching. I always value bravery. Yes, boy, your parents were brave. Killed your father first. He put up a courageous fight. But your mother needn't have died. I thought he just said they died begging for mercy. You're not begging for mercy if you're putting up a courageous fight. Okay? But she died in vain. She died trying to save you. So, Harry tries to get to the door to go back through the flames. Quirrell grabs onto him. Harry realizes when Quirrell touches him, it burns Quirrell's hands. So Harry does the next thing that comes to his mind. He grabs Quirrell, okay, by the face. Harry keeps trying to fight Quirrell, etc., and he blacks out. Bottom of 295. Something gold was glinting just above him. Okay. Why? I mean, why is the snitch there? Okay, I mean, I know he got it at the last Quidditch match, but why is it there? It's because of the symbolism of gold. Something pure, something high, etc. Harry opens his eyes, gold. He blinks. It wasn't the snitch. It's a pair of glasses. Ah, it's Dumbledore, like Frodo waking up in Rivendell. Okay? Harry asks a question. The stone, Quirrell, Quirrell doesn't have the stone. Then who does? Calm down, Harry. Harry looks around. There's all kinds of crap around him. Gifts, presents, etc. From his friends and admirers. How long have I been in here? 3 days. Notice the symbolism. So here's the floor, so to speak, of that third floor where the trapdoor is. They go through the trapdoor. Probably put it this way. They fall down. How far down do they fall? Well, when they land and look up, the light in the room where the trapdoor is looks like what, we're told? A postage stamp. A little bit larger than my thumbnail. That means they've fallen more than 3 floors. So where are they? Underground. Okay? So they're underground, and when Harry wakes up, he's back above ground. And how many days have transpired? Any symbolism? Yeah, very much symbolism. Okay? This is showing us early on Harry is a what? Just like Voldemort says, Snape does fit the type, doesn't he? Harry fits a type. What have we seen him do? We've seen him come to Hagrid's defense, back in Madame Malkin's, okay? We've seen him come to Ron's defense on the train. We've seen him come to Neville's defense. We've seen him come to Malfoy's defense. That is, he doesn't only defend the good, okay? And now we've seen him essentially, not literally, what? Die, underground, and then is reborn, okay? So, but sir, the stone. Okay, you're not going to be distracted, all right. Dumbledore says, I got there in time. As soon as I left, I thought, I probably need to go back. Harry, it was you. 297. I feared I might be too late. You nearly were. I couldn't have kept off the stone much longer. Forget the stone, boy. You. The effort involved nearly killed you. In other words, he was Princess Bride, mostly dead. Okay? For one terrible moment there, I was afraid it had. The stone's been destroyed. Destroyed. What about Nicholas Flamel? Oh, you know about Nicholas. Look at the next sentence. You did do the thing properly. What does that did mean? It's emphatic. Dumbledore is telling us, I knew you would go after the stone. I didn't realize you would do research as to how to do it. That's what he means by you did it properly. You found out about Nicholas. Well, we've had a little chat. It's all for the best. Harry's like, what? Okay, he's 11 years old. Do 11-year-olds contemplate death very often? Not really. But that means they'll die. They have enough elixir stored to set their affairs in order. And then, yes, they will die. Dumbledore smiled at the look of amazement on Harry's face. And then he tells us, for Nicholas and Perenelle, it really is like going to bed after a very, very long day. That is, the 665 years and the 658 years they've lived have not been full of what? Each successive year.
Life.
Yeah. Life hasn't been getting better each year. How many of you have had to stay awake for 36, 40 hours? Okay? When I did my undergraduate degree at Covenant College on Lookout Mountain, Georgia. I'm from San Jose, California. When I would end a semester, I would drive back home. I did that nonstop. It's about 2,400 miles. No sleep. A lot of no-dos and Coke. Okay? This kind of Coke, not the other kind. So that by the time I would get home or got back to school, I'd be totally wired and jacked up, Only time it wasn't fun, so to speak, was coming back during the winter and having to go over Mont Eagle Mountain, usually when it's icy and foggy and, you're seeing all kinds of stuff, okay? He's talking about when medical residents, they finished their 3 years of schooling and now they're doing the rotations and stuff, who have to be on for 24 hours, and then they get 6 hours sleep, and then they go on for another 24 hours. It's part of the reason why our medical system's a little bit screwed up. You don't want somebody looking after you who's only had 6 hours of sleep after being awake for 24 hours, okay? He says, it's like what? Going to bed after a very, very long day. In other words, they're kind of looking forward to it. So, then he says this, each novel will end with a pithy statement by Dumbledore that is essentially an Aesopian moral. It's the moral of the story. It's the rememberable passage that the whole book is about. To the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. Okay? So what does that mean? Death is not, therefore, what? Say that again? Oh, the end. It's not something to be feared if you have a well-organized mind. But what does it mean to have a well-organized mind? Okay? He doesn't necessarily tell us that at this point. That, I'm going to argue or suggest, that is what all 7 books are about. They're developing a well-organized mind in Harry. And that means to not fear death. And, first part, and to be ready to die at any/every moment of life. Okay? So, he then tells us this. The stone was not really such a wonderful thing. Think about it, Harry. That's me. As much money in life as you could want. Notice how he reduces what it means. As much money, filthy rich, and life as you could want. The 2 things most human beings would choose above all. I bet if we took a silent poll in here, probably without talking this passage, and we gave you options, most people would probably go 1 and 2 out of 15 or 20 things. The 2 things most human beings would choose above all. The trouble is, humans do have a knack of choosing precisely those things that are worst for them. So when Dumbledore says humans have a knack for choosing the things that are worst for them, what is he saying about unlimited riches and immortality?
It doesn't bring out the best qualities of humans.
That's a very benign, passive way of saying what I'm looking for. He says humans will often choose the things that are the absolute worst for them. And he says that in the context of what? As much money in life as you could want. Dumbledore is saying, I suggest, those are among the 2 worst things we could desire. Okay? So if those are among the 2 worst things we could desire, what would the opposite of that be? What would the 2 best things we could desire be? That's an important question. How do you answer that? Do you answer that from within the context of the novel? No, because it won't give you the answers. I think the answers come in J.K. Rowling herself. And I think partly the answer lies in her response to that journalist. I misspoke the other day when I said the journalist was from Toronto. It's in the Vancouver Sun, and the interview was in 2000 or 2001. When the journalist asked her, are you a Christian? She said yes, and then she said, I can't tell you what that means for the stories, because that would give away the ending. But I think it doesn't give away an ending here, but it gives us an indication of what she means. Okay? What did Christ tell those who wanted to follow him?
They had to give up their worldly possessions.
And take up your cross and follow me. That is, there are 2 denials. Denial of self, life. You have to be willing to what? To die in order to what? To live. And you have to become poor. Not necessarily, literally, physically poor. But think of the Beatitudes. The first one, blessed are the poor in spirit. Okay? You have to become poor in spirit. Why? So that you can be filled, traditional Christian theology, with the Holy Spirit and such. I could be entirely wrong. I'm not the only one who thinks that is what Rowling, however, is kind of implying here. She hasn't given it all the information, all right? But if you understand her background, and this is largely, my reading of this passage comes from the other 6 books, too, okay? So, Way too much. So, Harry asks one other question. He starts to say Voldemort, then he says he, must not be, you know who. Call him Voldemort, Harry, page 298. Always use the proper name for things. Fear of a name increases fear of thing itself. He's not gone, is he? No, he's not, Dumbledore says. In other words, like evil in the Lord of the Rings, the shadow has fallen, but it'll just take another form. Okay? He says, you've delayed his return. There are some other things I'd like to know the truth about. The truth? Beautiful and terrible thing, Harry. Should be treated with great caution. He says, I shall answer your questions unless I have a very good reason not to, in which case I beg you'll forgive me. I shall not, of course, lie. Harry, Voldemort said he'd only killed my mother because she tried to stop him from killing me. See, we didn't know that before. That is, before Voldemort told him that. We didn't know that he killed James and Lily first because he wanted to be able to get to Harry. Now we know that. But why would he want to kill me in the first place? Harry's thinking, I was a baby. What harm could I have done him? Dumbledore. Alas, the first thing you ask me, I cannot tell you. Not today, not now. You'll know one day. Book 5. Okay? Is that a truthful answer? He said, I shall not, of course, lie. Can he tell Harry the answer now? Yes, he can. He chooses not to. Okay? That's why he says, I shall answer your questions unless I have a very good reason not to. Well, he's going to tell us in book 5 what the reason was that he didn't tell him at this point. All right? So, when you're older, when you're ready, you will know. And then he asks, why couldn't Quirrell touch me? What does Dumbledore say? Why did Harry's mother die? This kind of gets back to that little answer to the two things that are worse for us, and that the corresponding what might be the two things that are best for us. Why does she die?
Because she loved Harry.
And?
She was protecting him.
Louder?
She was protecting him.
She was protecting him. So how did she protect him? Let's say Harry's in his crib here. I'm Lily, I'm here. Voldemort's standing here. What do I do to keep him from killing him? And what do? You make yourself as big as possible. How do you make yourself as big as possible? You put your arms out. What have you just made? A cross. Protection. She sacrifices herself for Harry. Notice, she's not thinking of my long life. She's thinking of his. Christ said, greater love hath no man than that he's willing to lay down his life for, and she does. And the implication is, James did also. Okay? We're going to see how they die in a later book. And it's not going to be exactly the way Voldemort said it was. And there's a reason for that. Voldemort's a liar. Okay? Whenever Voldemort speaks, you cannot take what he's saying as truth. So, book ends. Gryffindor wins House Cup. Why? Because they've got the best Quidditch team? Nope.
Almost seems sure to stop them from going.
Neville's points do what? They hit them over the top. Harry and Ron's points get them even with Slytherin. Neville gets 10 points because Dumbledore says, shouldn't have closed my book. Dumbledore says, oh, wrong book. Looking at the end of Chamber of Secrets. Second, third, where is it?
306.
Yeah, there it is. There are all kinds of courage. Takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to your enemies, but just as much to stand up to our friends. I therefore award 10 points to Neville Longbottom. What is Rowling showing us when we see Neville stand up to his friends not once but twice?
That Neville is also brave and worthy of
Okay.
Gryffindor.
Very much true. What else? Put yourself back to 11 years old. Your friends want to do something. What is she introducing?
Harry's like an influence now?
Peer pressure. Who at 11 years old wants to go against what their friends want to do? Especially if your friends are quote unquote cool. And one of them defeated the greatest dark wizard ever lived. That's pretty hard. Why does Neville do that? Is it simply because of house points? Or is it also because it's the right thing to do? It's both. Okay? But he shows great courage in doing that. That's why Dumbledore puts them over the top with Neville's points. Why else does Dumbledore do that? Think of a personal reason for Neville. What does Neville need more than anything else?
Encouragement.
He needs encouragement, man. This kid needs a confidence infusion. Okay? Second book. So they win House Cup. Harry gets the photo album. Okay? Second book. It's the worst birthday. Why? What does Harry now have that he's never had before?
Homework?
Louder?
Homework during the summer.
Well, he's got homework during the summer, which he didn't have before. What else?
Friends.
He knows he's magical. What else?
Friends wants to talk.
He got friends. Ron, Hermione, Neville, Seamus, etc. Okay? It's his birthday. What are your friends supposed to do on your birthday? Something. Even if it's not a gift, it's a card. And he doesn't get squat. Okay? Dobby shows up. I'm leaving out, Harry picking on Dudley and such. Dudley had it coming. Dobby shows up. It's the night of the big to-do in the Dursley house. Mr. Dursley thinks he's going to get a big drill order, so Harry's got to behave and stay off in his room. And Dobby's there. And Dobby says, you cannot go back to school. Your life will be in danger, etc. Okay? He tells Dobby to be quiet, and etc. I didn't mean to offend you. Dobby's amazed because talking about being offended like he's an equal. Okay? We don't have time to go through the entire passage. Dobby says several things about Harry. Every time Dobby implies something negative about himself, Harry, to go back to Dudley, builds him up. He says something positive about him. Okay? Bottom of 14. Harry's found out what it's like where Dobby lives. Okay? And he says, I thought I had it bad here for another 4 weeks. Can't anyone help you? Can't I? Again, Dobby starts to wail and stuff. And then Dobby says, 15, Dobby has heard of your greatness, sir, but of your goodness. Harry kind of cuts him off and starts to, I'm not great or good, blah, blah, blah. Dobby again. Harry Potter is humble and modest. So, Harry is great, good, humble, modest. Okay? They keep talking. Dobby says, top of the next page, you defeated he who must not be named again. Harry Potter is valiant and bold. Harry Potter must stay, page 16, where he is safe. He is too great, too good to lose. Harry Potter must not put himself in peril. He is too important. Why is he too important? Why is he too great, too good to lose for Dobby? What does Harry become for Dobby? An idol, a shining lights, a city set upon a hill, all that kind of language. Okay? Harry wonders if Voldemort has a brother, etc., etc. Dobby does magic. Harry gets blamed for it. Okay? The Weasleys come and rescue him, take him away. And shortly before they do, hold on. Mr. Weasley, before, nope, it's a wrong passage. They go off to Flourish and Blast. So Harry spends the rest of the summer, about the last little over a month, at the Weasleys. What does he think about life at the Weasleys?
It's just the greatest thing ever.
It's fantastic. What kind of house do they live in? Big, beautiful mansion? No. It's like a house. You can find them around Murfreesboro every now and then, where, you know, the person who owned the house was a handyman or a contractor or whatever, and they just keep adding on, etc. You know, so there's a room at the top that's half leaning over, all that kind of stuff. It's a wild mess outside, typical kind of English garden that's not a palace, so to speak. But what does Harry experience in the house that he's not experienced at number 4 Privet Drive?
Kindness.
Kindness. Keep going.
Normal. I guess it was normal for him.
Like a functioning family.
It's love. He sees love among all these people. Yeah, Fred and George can be, you know, a little crazy. And, you know, whenever he sees Jenny, you know, she turns beet red and stuff. But there's love that animates this place. Do we see love at the Dursleys? Even between Vernon, Petunia, and Dudley? Not really. Dudley's pretty mercenary. You know, when it's his birthday, what does he want? He wants to make sure he gets more gifts than he got last year. You know, Vernon's like, that's my boy, you know, knows what he wants to do. You know. Okay? So, they go off to Diagon Alley. How do they go this time?
Blue powder.
Floo power. Powder, sorry. Floo. Why? What is that thing inside a chimney? It's called the flue. Flue. Okay? So you go in the flue into the fireplace, you throw a pinch of dust, and you say the place you want to go. Okay? Does Harry make it to Diagon Alley? Where's he end up?
Flourish and Blast or Nocturne Alley.
Nocturne Alley. Knocturn. But it's also what? Latin. Nocturne, which is what? Night. Dark alley. Okay? He ends up where there are dark wizard things. Okay? Flourish and Blots. Gonna skip a bunch. Who do they run into? 2 people, actually.
Lucius and Draco.
Lucius and Draco, that's one of the 2 people. Who else? Who's going to be the new teacher? Gilderoy Lockhart. He's going to be the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Describe Gilderoy Lockhart. Ugh, yeah. His name, by the way, Gilderoy, Gild, to gild, king, the gilded king. Gilded means to be covered in gold. Notice, covered in gold, not real gold, not solid gold. So he's a gold-plated king, not literally king, means leader, high person. But to be gilded that way means not really. Lockhart. What's that suggesting? Possibly about his heart. It's closed. What's it closed around? If you've read this book before or seen the film, and by the way, Kenneth Branagh was wonderfully cast as Gilderoy Lockhart. He should have had long hair, though. He needed the long hair because of what's described about Lockhart. What does Lockhart's world revolve around? What does he do when he first shows up in class? He holds up one of his books And it doesn't have his picture on the back, like books usually do if they have a slipcover. His face is on the front. And he goes, me. Okay? So, they meet Gilderoy Lockhart and they meet Malfoy and Malfoy. Why is it significant that they meet the two Malfoys? What happens?
Didn't Harry meet, little thing, I almost forgot the name.
Draco?
No, the goblin looking thing, that was at his house before it.
Dobby? Not here. And he doesn't know yet that Dobby worked for the Malfoys. That's going to come out later. Okay? What happens between Mr. Malfoy and Arthur Weasley?
You get into a fight.
Why?
Because Weasley likes boys.
The Weasleys are hanging around with the Grangers, Hermione's Muggle parents. And Malfoy, Lucius, says, and I didn't think you could stoop any lower. And he says, something about selling the good name of wizard, etc. And Arthur responds and says, you and I have two different ideas of what it means to lower the name of wizard. It's that's a Whomping Willow, Flourishing Blocks. Pages 62 and 63. Mr. Malfoy. Mr. Malfoy. What's the use of being a disgrace to the name of wizard if they don't even pay you for it? Pay you well for it. Arthur. We have a very different idea of what disgraces the name of wizard. Malfoy. Clearly, says Malfoy. The company you keep, Weasley, and I thought your family could seek no lower. And that's when Arthur jumps him. Okay? What's being discussed there? What did Harry see in Nocturne Alley? What did he witness?
Division, early teacher.
He saw Malfoy, right? Okay? And he saw Malfoy's father. Malfoy's father is doing what? Trying to pawn off stuff. Why? Because the Ministry of Magic is raiding homes. People associated with the Dark Arts. Okay? So, Hagrid breaks him up and says, 63, rotten to the core, the whole family, everyone knows that. No Malfoy is worth listening to her. Bad blood. That's what it is. Now, Rowling introduces an idea here that we're going to see ripple throughout the books. The next book, it's going to get even stronger because we're going to meet Vernon's sister, Aunt Marge. She's going to use some of the exact same language. So what does it mean when you call someone rotten to the core? Bad blood. What's that an example of?
An apple.
Well, core of an apple, yeah, but that means the heart, the center of the thing. It's racism. If you're rotten to the core, that is to your innermost beings. Channel your inner Hillary Clinton. Go back to 2016. What did she say about Trump supporters? Anybody know? A basket of deplorables. Irredeemable. That's what that means. Okay? Deplorable, irredeemable. Nothing good about them. So, Hagrid introduces this idea that there are people who are what? Beyond any good. And he's saying that about whom? Those with bad faith. The Malfoys. Okay? This statement, this is going to come back to bite Hagrid later on. Because later on, we're going to find out something about Hagrid's ancestry. Okay? So, it's 9:24. Whomping Willow. Okay, so we're obviously not finishing this today, and we've got to get back on track. So I hate to do this. In all the time that you will have free, in between, whatever you're going to do during spring break, I'm going to ask you to do two things. One, I'm going to post a lecture that finishes the rest of this, and then I'm going to post about 90 to 100 minutes, I think it is, of two other videos that will cover Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm going to ask you to watch both of those over spring break. The one to finish this, and then those, so that when we come back Monday the 17th, I think it is, we can start Goblet of Fire. Because if we don't, we will probably not even get to the seventh book. I'll have a quiz over this and Prisoner of Azkaban, but those won't be due until after you get back from spring break. I'm not going to require you to do a quiz over the list. All right, that's all. I think I've got a quiz over this up now already. Is it tonight? Thank you.